Well, good morning and welcome to the trade setup right here on BloombergQuint Live. And it's a continuation of trend, if you will, for the market's perspective, and therefore bulls should be very happy. But at least those who got a chance to get in the market and stay in the market. But let's get straight to business and talk about what's really happening. Obviously, as you would have seen from the last few trade setups, we aren't giving too much of importance to the number of coronavirus cases going up simply because right now the focus of markets seem to be reopening of the economies, and I think that is what is leading the markets higher. So if you just look at what's happened in the US markets yesterday, tech shares slid a little bit but ended the day 0.5% higher, and therefore Dow, Nasdaq, S&P 500, all of these had a fairly decent outing in the session yesterday. So tech underperformed, but largely these stocks did very well. And by the way, the US futures are trading in the green, so keep that at the back of your mind. So the going was very good for the US markets. Asia too has started off on a pretty strong footing. I mean, the peripheral markets that I saw, or the mainstream markets in Asia that I saw, almost all of them, without exception, were in the green. So the start looks very, very robust. And keep in mind, viewers, this is a rising tide which is carrying all boats along with it. Everybody was talking about the US markets outperformance. I just tried to look at what some of the other markets have done. Frankly, India or a Brazilian market, for example, in the last 7 days have outperformed the US markets by a margin, really. I mean, uh, just look at the kind of return differential in the last 7 days versus the US markets versus India and Brazil, and you'll get to see some of these are underperforming as well. I mean, Russia is maybe marginally underperforming the US market, but this chart shows you that it's a rising tide which is carrying all boats along with it. All emerging markets are doing rather well for themselves. US market themselves are not doing all that poorly, and therefore that tells you a story. I mean, just look at the white line is the Brazilian market, and just look at that 12% gain that it has had on the Indian markets, about the 10-11% gain that it's had in the last 7 days. Nothing to scoff at. The SGX Nifty in today's session as well points towards the start, which will be marginally positive. So you have a good tailwind. The SGX Nifty will likely do well on open. SGX Nifty is doing well, and therefore the Indian markets will likely do well on open in the session today as well. And frankly, if you just look at the trade setup, there are two or three things that stand out, don't they? One, the market is not giving a chance to most people who are not in the market to get in, because at almost every level there is skepticism about whether the market can do more or no, and the market keeps on going higher. Therefore, most of the people who are sitting on sidelines at 9,000, 9,100, believing that we are headed lower, haven't had a chance to really make a meaningful entry into these markets. And corporate commentaries are not particularly weak, really, which may aid sentiment in select stocks in the near term. And just look at what's happened to what Tata Motors commentary was yesterday, what Motherson Sumi said in the con call yesterday, what a Metropolis told me in the conversation day before yesterday. So the corporate commentaries are looking pretty strong, and that will probably only aid sentiment in the near term. I dare say, I mean, and the kind of trading volumes that are happening in specific stocks, like Bajaj Finance example, a case in point yesterday, it has had the highest volumes, viewers, Bajaj Finance, in nearly a decade. The volumes in Bajaj Finance yesterday go back as much as 2010. We haven't had such a large candle on the volume front in Bajaj Finance in a single day for the last 10 years. That tells you a story, doesn't it? The kind of gusto with which people are coming back to buy stocks. I mean, delivery percentage obviously would be lower, but you still had some very high volumes for a stock which people believe is in a sector which is in the doldrums. So that tells you a story, really. FIs bought in a large number, aided primarily, yes, by the Uday Kotak selling, a large portion of which would have been taken by FIs. But I dare say, uh, even if you assume that the entire money was done by FIIs, you still had a large number, nearly 1,500 crores or northwards of that from the FIs in trade yesterday as well. So the going seems to be pretty good from a fund flow perspective as well. Now, what do you watch out for? One, before I get to specific stocks, like I said, Bajaj Finance did very well, and therefore now you've got to watch out for the underperforming financials. If the markets crack, then all of them go down. But if you just look at what uh, X versus Y has done in the last 7 days, again with the market, just look at this data and that tells you a story, doesn't it? Bajaj Finance, HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank, Axis Bank, all of these in the last 7 days have had northwards of 15% returns. Compare that to what a Shriram Transport Finance, LIC Housing Finance, Power Finance Corporation, Sundaram have done. They've just not participated. So the question is, can these underperforming financials participate? Time will tell. A lot of people are betting on the likes of Shriram Transport or a PFC to do well. Let's wait and watch if that happens. But I think it's a pocket that all of you should keep a keen eye out for. However, stocks that you should watch on open today, that's the key thing again, right? I would watch out for financials without a shadow of doubt, but stocks that might react on specific news. Britannia, the numbers came in largely in line with estimates. The profit number was boosted by the lower tax outgo, but I think it's the commentary and what Britannia said was something that caught my eye. Now they're saying that they have witnessed revenue growth of 20% in April 20 and 28% in May 2020. In a lockdown situation, this is the kind of growth that Britannia has posted. Well, there are it's pretty stellar commentary, really. They've said that they continue to gain market share, and yes, there has been a moderate inflation in the prices of key raw materials, but the commentary around revenue growth pretty strong, pretty emphatic. Tells you what the foods businesses are doing because Nestle too is presumably having a really good run. They've launched new versions of Maggie in the lockdown as well, and therefore you can see that the stronger ones are getting even stronger. Something that Raz Motiola was saying last Friday. So yeah, do watch out for Britannia in the session today. Could have a positive reaction. Motherson Sumi, they've announced Vision 2025. The results came in yesterday. You already heard Agam speak to the management, so that's fine. But what they said in the Vision 2025 is interesting. They are targeting 33 to 35 billion dollars of revenues with a return on capital employed of 40%. Now, mind you, just to put this into perspective, the company had ended 2020 with a revenue number of 12 billion only, and therefore, what they are targeting is really high. But just the point that they ended with 12 billion versus a target of 18 billion, which means they missed the last target by a wide margin. So you don't quite know. But this is an impressive target that they have set out. They are going to target newer revenue streams, and therefore, Motherson Sumi becomes a very important stock in the session today. Economy opening up naturally is a big tailwind for this. Let's wait and watch. Bloomberg reported that on Reliance Industries Sports Market hours yesterday that three of the largest Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds are in advanced talks to invest in geo platforms. So, and the beeline of investors who want to take a slice of geo platforms continues, and that should naturally keep on aiding the sentiment around geo platforms. You got to ask yourself, why is it that so many people want a slice of the Indian telecom space? So yeah, and by the way, we are having a conversation with Sanjay Kapoor a bit later on at 9:30. You might want to tune in for that to understand what's happening in telecom. And last but not the least, HUL came out with an update post market hours. I'm sticking to large caps today because they are in news. I think the Goldman Sachs note on HUL tells your story. They're saying that the operational update indicates continued challenges and they are lowering their FY20 and FY23 EPS by small margin. It's a strong stock, but certainly seeing some issues right now. Let's wait and watch what happens to HUL in this session. But Britannia, Motherson, Reliance, and financials viewers, just watch out for the underperforming financials. It could be an interesting next few days for them. Thanks so much for tuning into the Trade Setup.